Director of Community Security for the Greater Miami Jewish Federation. So I thank you all for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight and speak with you all. I want to keep it informal, and I want you to go away with some takeaways that you can actually apply to your everyday life. As far as my background, I have been with the Federation for 10 months and a fairly recent retired FBI agent, and I was 22 years working as an FBI agent, and I was specialized in weapons of mass destruction, chemical, nuclear, biological, things of that nature, the nasty stuff. I worked at the Pentagon. I worked a lot of the anthrax case. I've worked several biological cases. So I've had a very nice career, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be helping this community. So I'm very excited to be part of it. All right. Through. One of the biggest takeaways I want you to know is, we think of security and we think of police and we think of security professionals. It's really a community. The saying, it takes a village to raise a child. The same really goes in security. It takes the whole community to be involved and to be aware of everything to help. Police are typically not going to be the first ones to see something go wrong. They're the ones that get that 911 call. So we're really an intricate part of security. And I just keep that in the back of your mind. And then leveraging the power of your community, like we're doing today. One of the other things I do with our group is I have what's called a security working group, and we meet right now once a week. Jay Mermelli's part of that group because he's one of your lay leaders for security for your synagogue. And we all meet and we strategize and we talk about best practices. We talk about issues that maybe each synagogue has that may be a little bit different. So there's no one size fits all for security. Everyone in every synagogue has its own needs, its own budget, just so many different things. It could be location and where it is. It could be, either an advantage or a disadvantage. So leveraging the community is a huge thing. It takes 5 minutes to set up. There's no technical expertise and it's free. That's the nicest thing. So my approach, and Jay's very much aware of this, is I have a crawl, walk, and run approach, especially when we start getting out into the community and teaching and training. And the first one is always connect with your local counterparts. And then the next one is plan. Come up with a plan. Do you have an emergency plan, much like you have a hurricane? Do you have one, God forbid, you should be encountered by like an active shooter or an active threat? Does everyone know what the plan is? Do you know where the safe places in your synagogue are to go if you needed to and you could not escape? And then the last part is we train, and it's kind of like we're doing now. And then we even go into a full-scale training where you bring in a bad guy and you run through an actual scenario, a fake bad guy, of course. So what is suspicious activity, right? So it's really observed behavior, and it usually indicates some type of a crime or a terrorist-related event. You may be shocked to know, though, it's mostly common sense. This is my only funny slide I have, but it's kind of like, one of those three doesn't look like the other from, I think it was Sesame Street years ago. Well, on the back of your neck stands up. It stands up for a reason. Those are your instincts kicking in, saying something is not right. You know your synagogue for the most part. You know who the congregants are. You know who your lay leaders are. When something seems out of line, that's when you're going to have to step up and say something. Trust your instincts. So it's kind of easy, right? We say, okay, we're going to follow all the rules and the regulations of the property. And we say that, and yet I will still visit a synagogue and I'll watch one person that has a key access or a gate access and they have their own clicker. And I'll say, well, why do they get a clicker? Well, they're our top donor. They get a clicker. Well, you can't have both. You can't have security and then you can't give special privileges. And I know that's hard. One of the other things is many synagogues have a parking spot labeled rabbi. I'm against that because if I want to hurt the rabbi, I'm just going to sit there and wait for the rabbi to park. right? Simple things like that. You could easily put private parking there. We constantly say, be alert of your surroundings. And I can't say that enough. And I'm going to bring up this point. You all probably shop at Publix. You all have been to a Walmart from time to time. You may shop at any other store. Do you know where the other exits are aside from the front door you always come in and the front door you always leave? Most people don't. They have no idea if, for some reason, even if you say there's a fire at the front of the store, how would they be able to get out? So one thing I ask is, as soon as you get anywhere, a movie theater, a Publix, wherever you're going, look and see where the designated exits are so that you know ahead of time where the exits are and how, if you had to get out in an expeditious way, you could, because you're unfortunately, your body is trained to go to what you're always doing. And you're going to initially start running towards that front door, even though you know there's a fire there. Okay, so I just want you to start thinking of that, and then go among your business of shopping. Report anything suspicious to a designated person, right? Because it might not be a crime and it might not be anything, but it might be something. So there needs to be that reporting mechanism within your synagogue, and who do you report it to? And then I always say participate in in-house security briefings like you are today. So I applaud you for that. So why do systems fail? Well, sometimes they're just not tested. And I'm going to give you an example. When I came to Federation, we have these panic buttons, and the entire building can go into a lockdown if there's a threat. So I said, okay, let's try it. So we tried it and it didn't work. Now, it was installed a year earlier and it was tested and it worked, but something happened in that year's time. And then I came and tested it and it didn't work. God forbid we actually had needed it in those couple of months I had already been there, and it would not have worked. So you have to test your systems that you have, whether it's your camera system, whatever it is, you have to test it from time to time. I do quarterly checks. So that's one reason. A lot of times a back door or a side door is left open. And I find this more common in the JCCs, right? So they have basketball and whatnot. And they'll leave a side door open, making it either for ventilation or easier for guests to come in and out, but they're also allowing an intruder to gain access and not be detected in your facility. So I'm pretty much a stickler for locking the doors, especially if you're there alone. And then the gate or a fence line if it's left unlocked as well. So these are just some examples of why security fails. So how do you report suspicious activity? I want you to think of it from the 5 W's, the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. Obviously, if it's a real emergency, call 911. Don't even hesitate. Call 911 and get them there as soon as possible. If you think it's suspicious is what we're really talking about. So who did you see? What did you see? When did you see it, right? Where? But more importantly, I always say, ask yourself, why are you considering it suspicious? Not just because I have a hunch, but could it be that, hey, I was standing outside my synagogue and the same car drove past 3 times, and the last time it drove by really slow taking pictures. Okay, that would probably not be a normal thing, and that's why it would be suspicious. And that's an example. So I want to talk a little bit about the active threat, and you may know it as active shooter, but police and law enforcement in general and public safety are just calling it now active threat. And hate crimes, I want to talk about those as well. This slide unfortunately has a typo in it. In 2018, there were 27 incidents of hate crimes, right? And in 2019, there were 28 incidents, and they both had 16 states involved. Last year alone, Florida was home to 3 incidents and 3 shootings, actually, unfortunately. Hate crimes is up for over 20%, and more than 50% of those crimes are towards religious bias, and it's Jewish bias, unfortunately. So this is kind of what the map looks like for 2019, and this is just recently released from the FBI. Texas is the biggest, but you can see Florida still is up there in the top 5.
Doctor, but now he's in the news for a different reason.
So disaster response. So we're going to go into a little bit of the background science of how people behave under a high stress event. And I want you really to be able to take something back with this, and how can you behave differently and behave in such a manner that you're not going to panic, freak out, and freeze, right? But you're going to actually think through a thought process. So when we talk about disaster, you go through 3 stages. You go through denial, you go through deliberation, and then you take that decisive moment when you take action, regardless of whether the action is good or bad, right? So there was a study done by Amanda Ripley, and she basically said, you know, those who survive disasters are the ones who can go from denial to action or decisive moment the fastest. And we'll talk about, well, how do I get to that decisive moment faster? So the first one's denial, right? And I'm going to use the example of the Twin Towers in New York on 9/11. So the first plane hit, and then the second plane hit. They knew by that point planes had hit. They knew the building was on fire. The fire alarms were going off. The fire marshals were trying to hustle everyone out of the building. Yet people still were in denial, saying this can't be happening. This can't be happening. Their brain did not want to wrap around the logical side of that. They made phone calls. They logged off their computer. They collected their belongings, where they should have immediately said, oh my goodness, there's a fire. I may die. I need to get out of this building. And they should have moved. So why do people do it? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Normal biasy, right? Your brain tries to say, oh my goodness, is this really happening? It's nothing we're ever familiar with, thank goodness, right? We don't live in a war zone. And then social proofing, right? So unfortunately, sometimes we act like sheep. Do not be a sheep. When you go to dinner, and the best example I can use for this is when you were younger and you didn't know what spoon or fork to use. And sometimes you still look at the table and go, which one's my water? And you always wait for the other person to grab their water first and then you grab it. That's how we work. We look for other people's clues and we work off of them. You can't do that in a crisis. You have to be able to think on your own and think on your own 2 feet, because if you do follow other people, you may be following down a bad path. And that's kind of what happened in the unfortunate situation of Pittsburgh. So 2 weeks prior to that active shooter, there was actually training. And the same gentleman that's in the position I'm in, but he's in Pittsburgh, he's also a former FBI agent with crisis response background as well. He conducted that training 2 weeks prior, obviously having no knowledge that there was going to be an incident. They never thought it would happen to them in Pittsburgh. That knowledge though, and it's interesting to hear people's take on it. There's 90-year-olds from that temple that say, if I had not had that training, I would not have known which way to run, what to do, things of that nature, and how that training saved their life. So what you do really does matter, and what decision you make and you take matters. And it could be life or death. You know, and a lot of times we describe it, I'm going to break it down between the human brain and the lizard brain. I even like to refer to it as the squirrel brain as well. Did you ever drive down the street and the squirrel is right there? He moves, and then literally right when you're going, he runs right back into your car, right? Because he can't make a decisive decision or a good decision. He panics. So what happens with your heart rate? So if you are a relatively in health person, your resting heart rate's probably about 60 beats per minute. When you start working out and you go for a walk, you probably start getting up to 90 beats per minute, even 120 beats per minute. And if you work out really hard, you know, obviously it keeps going up. But what happens as your heart rate rises, your mental capacity decreases. So when you hit 120 beats per minute, that's probably when your complex motor skills start to deteriorate. However, you're going to be the fastest and strongest. That's when that endorphin rush comes in and you're able to move mountains, so to speak, and run faster. When you hit 150, that cognitive processing starts to diminish, and you start to go into like tunnel vision. You don't see peripherally around you. You don't know what's happening except for what's right in front of you. And then unfortunately, once you hit 175 beats per minute, you go into full system overload. And that's when you freeze, essentially. You don't want to get to that. So how do you counteract that? It's really, really simple. If you take a deep breath right now, everybody take a deep breath. And you're going to hold it for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to exhale. And exhale for 4 seconds. If you do that twice, you can lower your beats per minute by 20 to 40 beats per minute. That could take you out of the 150 range down to the 120 or 90 range. It could be life or death. So you've got to first stop, take a deep breath. You know, there really is truth behind that. Take a deep breath, take 3 deep breaths if you need, and say, okay, what am I going to do? You literally have to talk yourself through this. And there's no easy way. So I'm going to show you a video where, and I'm hoping it plays. It's really going to depend on the bandwidth that you all have at your house. Some of you may have hiccups with it. Some of you may not have any problems with it at all. I worked the Fort Lauderdale shooting incident. It was a horrific scene. But what we found out was afterwards, we watched the video of the man pulling the gun out of his waistband, and I was absolutely shocked to see people hear the gunshot go off, cover their ears, just freeze. Some people just laid down in the middle of the airport rather than saying, okay, I have to get out of here as fast as I can. I need to find cover that's going to protect me from a bullet. So let's take a look. So here he comes with his jacket and he pulls his gun out of his waistband, and look at the man behind him in the white shirt. He just freezes. He just stands there. And then those people start to try to hide in front of a cart. At least the husband says, we need to move to the other side. I'm going to show you it one more time. And this is that lizard or human brain. People are in denial for entirely too long. So see, what if he would have just turned around? He could have shot all of those people as well. So and then they're just on the floor with no shielding. Make sense? I'm going to show you this one. This one is a great video out of New York. And the shooter came into a grocery store, and there's a woman, and she's going to be with her baby in her baby carriage. And I can guarantee you she has taken that child out of that baby carriage 100 times, if not 1,000 times. And she freezes, and she lives in denial, and she freaks out, and she almost rips the baby's neck off trying to get the baby out of the carriage. Why she doesn't continue to just roll the baby carriage out of this door, I'm not sure. But again, it comes down to that decisive moment. So you see how long it took her to get that child out of that? And I'm sure she's unhooked that and unlatched it. Gosh, I don't know how many times. And the common sense thing would have been just to roll that carriage out of the store. So again, I say over and over, common sense, common sense, common sense. It really is common sense, you guys, and anybody can do it. If we can teach children in grammar school how to run, hide, and fight from a bad guy, any adult surely can use it. I spoke to Women's Philanthropy a couple months ago, and I gave this type of a briefing, and one of the women said that the defining moment in her life was she was at a mall here, and they thought there were gunshots that went off. So everyone started screaming, yelling, and panicking. The daughter took her by the hand and said, come on, mommy, I know what to do. And she said, and she did. And she said, that was a defining moment for me that I need to learn this stuff as well. And it's not rocket science. It really isn't. So what I want to show you here, and it goes back to my Walmart and my Publix talk, right? Know where your exits are. This was a very unfortunate situation at the Station nightclub where they did pyrotechnics on stage, right? So they used fireworks, which probably wasn't the smartest thing inside. And a fire broke out. And where do you think everyone tried to leave to? The way they came in. Right, so entrance number 1. I don't know why there's scribbles all over I guess every time I move my cursor, it scribbles. So I apologize. So number 1, the entrance hall is where they tried to get back out because they didn't know that directly behind the stage there was an exit. off the main bar, there was an exit, and out of the kitchen, there was a main exit. I will say that there probably were not enough exits in this size facility. You know, what we found in the Pulse nightclub up in Orlando, unfortunately, was everyone went into the restroom. You're just sitting there like a lame duck. That's not an option, and it's not a good option. So here's what happened, and unfortunately, it's a little graphic, right? All of those clusters are dead people, they're victims, and it's where they died. And the only reason that it's mostly red at the 31 count at the entrance is because it's that many people all globbed together, and the yellow discs started turning red. But even at number 18 and number 9, they still all were trying to get to the front door, unfortunately. And then you can see some people in the video game room in the office, and not too many people, thank goodness, in the restroom. But those poor people in the main bar, there was an exit right there. Now, the other issue is, and I've seen this at some synagogues, where their emergency exit has those railings, and it's okay to have railings on one side, but I know one of the synagogues had railings on both sides. And I don't think that it served.
What happened? Okay,
We've lost her for a moment.
Yeah. I hope she didn't lose power, because we had, like here right now, we have a lot of thunderstorms also, so. I'm not sure what happened.
Do you have her cell phone or something? Hi, her a text. See what
What's his name? Jay, are you here? Glenda, is Jay? Oh, here she is. Oh, you back, Stephanie?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
That's okay, don't worry. We lost you.
That was crazy.
We're gonna call you to make sure you're okay.
Okay, let me.
Maybe you lost power or something.
I don't know, the whole thing went dead, but I mean, I'm plugged in, so I don't know.
Okay.
So I apologize. So let me go back to my slide I'm on. I don't think this is the right presentation. Hold on. Hold on, let me stop sharing this one. Wow, I am having issues today. Am I sharing anything right now? No, right?
No.
I can't even get back to you all.
No, you are on. We see you. You are on the screen.
Okay, here I go.
We see you and we hear you. We don't see a shared screen.
I see you all now too, so that's
okay.
Let me go back to my presentation though, because I'm not sure what
Who's the showman?
Does anybody have any questions up until now? No one?
Hold on, you're muted. Hold on. Try now. Now everyone is unmuted.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. It's Rosita.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go
Stephanie,
ahead.
in a situation like that, when the gunman comes in and you say we freeze, what do we? I see that a lot of people go under the table. Are we just supposed to run? That's it. The other way around?
No. So there's a whole nother. That's a great question. That really is a good question. So there's a whole nother training on solely on hide and fight that I do, and Jay and I have been talking about putting that out to the conversation. So it's going to depend. There's no one situation that fits all, right? The guy may come in, or girl may come in the back door. They may come in the side door. It depends on where you are. So you have to make a decision whether you're going to run. I would always run if I can get out. So are you going to run, or are you going to hide, or are you going to fight? And it's not really hiding. I like that term, because hiding doesn't help. But you need to barricade yourself in somewhere. So if you're like this and you move the desks in front of the door, whatever it is, obviously lock the door, shut the lights, and we go into those scenarios. And that's the training that we can bring on to the synagogue, you know, after this. And I know Jay wants that training for you all. So
We
that's
would love that. Yeah, we would love that.
So one of the problems with that railing, if you have it on both sides, people get corralled in there. It's great for a bar, you know, when they want to only get one person at a time and they want to do a cover charge, but it's not a great plan for an evacuation in an emergency. So I just wanted to give you that example. So you need to script out the what ifs in your head and practice it. And if this happens and I'm sitting in synagogue and somebody comes in the back door, where am I going? Know ahead of time what you're going to do if you're in a situation like that.
In a situation like this one, like this in Orlando, they should have run to the exit door. Is that what you're saying?
They should have, but they're kids mostly.
Whichever you are closest to, right?
For drinking, they're partying. I doubt they ever thought before they walked in there, where are my emergency exits?
Of course not.
You know,
So
do you guys?
A couple of drinks don't help either.
No, for sure. Do you all ever look to see when you go into a department store or a grocery store where your other exits are?
No, that's a great point to look into. I never
Right.
looked.
So
No.
do that first and then go enjoy yourself. I'm not saying be crazy and be like, oh my
Yes,
goodness, no, I don't want you to live in fear.
that's a great idea to do that first. Yes.
And you should be doing that everywhere. You do it on an airplane because they make you go through it. Do it everywhere. And teach your kids to look for the exits.
Right.
And where are we gonna meet up? You know, when you go to, how come it's only when you go to Disney? Hey, if we get separated, we're all gonna meet at the Magic Kingdom, right? But we don't do that in normal daily life. And I think we need to start doing that because the world has changed.
Yes.
So what
Unfortunately.
I want you to do is you have to remain calm. You have to breathe. A lot of people in a panic situation hyperventilate or hold their breath. And then shift your emotion. What do I mean by this? Most of you on here are women. You all know how to get angry. Your husbands are looking at you. Shift your fear to anger. Anger is a useful emotion. Fear is not a useful emotion. You can accomplish so much more when you're angry than when you're scared. And it's common sense, right? I wish I would have thought of that. Stay fit. Studies have shown that people that are fit survive these incidents far greater than those who are out of shape. I think a lot of it has to do with the blood pressure. You know, if you're out of shape, you already have high blood pressure. You're kind of already in that realm of not being able to think once you start getting excited. Excuse me. Hiding and hoping, I don't see that as an option. You know, going behind a desk, right? He's gonna come around and he's gonna find you. It's problematic. I'm gonna show you another video. Are the videos working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
here's
we
a
see you.
video. Here's a video. I forget where it is in the country, and it's not important, but a man came in. His wife was fired as a teacher, and he's pretty ticked off, and he's kind of going to take it out on the board, for school board, and it's a school meeting. But what I want you to pay attention to, and it's kind of hard to hear, that's why I'm going to kind of give you the narrative now, is he comes in and he spray paints something on the wall, and then he says, all of the rest of you can leave, the school board stay. And what happens? Denial. They all sit there and go, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And he brandishes a gun and says, you can leave. And he has to tell them again before they actually start to leave and gather their belongings.
They froze.
Oh my God.
So he says, everybody in this room can hit the road.
They're standing there. They're just sitting.
Yep, some are crawling. I would just pick up my stuff and run. He's letting you leave. Now, know your strengths and your weaknesses. You're going to see an older woman who tries to take charge of him with her purse.
Oh my God.
See her behind him?
Yes.
Probably not smart. So you need to know what your capabilities are, and don't think you're going to be a superhero and you're going to be able to take on. That man was 3 times her size, and I'm not sure what she had in her purse that she thought was going to actually do any harm to him. She's lucky he didn't shoot her. So again, common sense. Call 911. So leave as soon as possible. He gave them that. Know your exits, call 911. Another grocery store. I don't know why it's always in New York. Grocery store, and I want you to watch how the man right in front of us grabs a bottle, and he's actually thinking ahead, like, okay, if I need a weapon and this guy comes in my direction, I can't escape. I'm going to hit him over the head with a wine bottle. But I want you to watch down the aisle. An older woman just lays down and plays dead, and I don't recommend that because he hasn't even gotten there yet. He knows she's not dead.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
She was there before I started shooting. Oh my God.
Right.
Oh Lord.
She freezes. She freaks out. She freezes. Look, and then she goes right back down. Okay, I'm dead.
Oh my God.
If all of those people can get out, she can get out.
Oh my goodness.
I talk about the Virginia Tech shooting. I think it's one of the best examples of these kids are just absolutely amazing. And as I go through it, you're going to see why exactly. I'm not going to show the video. Dead. This poor girl played dead because she had no other option but to play dead. She was captive in a classroom. She was shot 3 times in the back, didn't even realize it, and she just sat there and tried not to breathe. He came back to her classroom 3 times. Let me see. It's actually a good video.
I heard the first shots around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only 2 seconds between the first time we heard them and when we actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an act being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door, and she threw it outside. She immediately shut the door, and she said, "Oh my God." And right then, he walked in, just like that. There's absolutely no.
What happened to her?
She's going to tell you.
I don't hear anything.
No, we can't hear her talk.
We don't
Can't
hear
hear
it.
it?
No,
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 no, no, she's not, it's not.
nothing. I don't know. Okay.
That's okay. I stopped it. Then
What happened? What happened to her?
So we're gonna talk about that. So the shooter goes on the 2nd floor on campus, and one by one he goes into classrooms, and he goes into classroom 206 and starts shooting. The ones in red are unfortunately the ones that have died. The ones in yellow escaped and were injured but survived, and the ones in green, no injuries whatsoever. He then went to room 207 and started shooting in 207. He went to 211.
Oh my God.
And then he went back and forth through the hallways, and then he went to 204. And in 204, all of the green there, 10 people jumped out a 2nd floor window and survived. So you can actually jump out the window. And then the other survived without injury, and 2 died. And unfortunately, there was a professor, and he held that door as long as he could, but he just wasn't strong enough to overpower the shooter, and eventually he gained access into that.
Oh my God.
But the interesting thing is in room 205, you see that big X?
Yes.
Nobody died in that classroom, and the man did not get in. The shooter wasn't able to get in. Those children, and I say children, but they're young adults, right? So the college kids all lie down on the floor and put their feet up against the door, and he couldn't get in. But what a neat, I would have never even thought of that, I don't think. They didn't.
You're talking about that they all came in the door and they all pulled their legs against the door. Is that what they did?
Yeah, they just stacked themselves up on top of each other, and they all pushed their legs against the door.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? So the
Amazing.
interesting part of 204 and that professor,
That's very interesting. I mean, that teaches us you got to have a way to lock those doors.
you do. And the thing is, make sure that the doors don't open out, right?
Open out, right?
And if they do, there are mechanisms they now sell that you can lock them. But yeah, so one of the big things is we lock the doors, and most classrooms have a window. Well, now the teacher can pull a screen down so that the intruder cannot see inside the classroom either. And they shut the lights and tell the kids to be quiet and silence all the cell phones.
Fortunately, in Florida, all doors that go outside, they all go towards the outside. They open out. They don't.
Not all the classroom doors, though.
The classroom doors, they're not.
Classroom don't always. Some do, and some synagogues I've seen.
They should not be, yeah.
Like
another thing we
Talmud,
need to-
yeah, like some of the schools do. So
This
this is the
crazy.
professor that was the hero, right? He saved all those children, gave them time to jump out the window. Here's the crazy part about it. So this is his name, and he was the professor of mechanical engineering, right? He was a Holocaust survivor,
Oh, yeah.
right? So that's the sad part about it. He lived through
Yes.
the Holocaust, and that's how he died, unfortunately.
Oh, my God.
So one of the things that we try to do at Federation and we put out to the community from time to time is training that we have at Federation. And we recently did a Stop the Bleed. What they found from Stoneman Douglas and most of these shootings is if you unfortunately are hit in a main artery, you have about 4 minutes to live before you bleed out. Well, police and paramedics are not going to get there in that 4-minute time, not long enough. And we found that it's so easy to apply a tourniquet and it's so fast. So we're out there now teaching children how to put tourniquets on. We're making sure tourniquets in school. I have tourniquets on every floor in the Federation. And then when we have a special event, like the main event or something, I make sure there's tourniquets and Stop the Bleed kits at those events as well. And this was one that we had not all that long ago. And all these people, the University of Miami has grant money, and they came and they actually taught the class, and they gave everyone their own tourniquet. Everyone went home with a tourniquet, and they're not cheap. They're $20 to $30 a piece, these tourniquets. So it was
Where do you get them? Where do you get this tourniquet?
you can get them on Amazon, but I'll give Jay like reputable companies, because some of these are like everything else, made in China and don't work and break. So you want to make sure that you're getting a tourniquet that actually works.
Okay.
And like I said, you've got to trust your instincts. You all know when something doesn't look right. You do. It's innate in you. But do you have a reporting mechanism for doing that? So let's see if this video plays. It's a video involving Pittsburgh. I don't know what happened there. It might be this slide. Tell me if it plays.
You always leave the water on.
You always clean the water.
What is this?
That's the tree of life. No. Why? They don't run the videos. We can't really hear them at all, you
Can
know.
you turn your volume up?
No, it's not even running like a normal video. It's like on
It's
kind of a thing.
all right. I pause it. Sometimes it depends on the bandwidth of your internet at the time. So I'll skip through it. It's a real emotional video of the rabbi, the security director, and they talk about the unfortunate, aftermath of
Yeah,
the Tree of Life, and how
yeah,
they're very thankful for the training they had, because they probably would have lost a lot more lives than they did. There's one older man, and he talks about how he took the class, and the guy he was next to at Temple did not take the class, and they both ran towards the upstairs. And the man that took the class said, "Come on, follow me. I know exactly where to go." And he said, "No, I'm going to go this way." And he said, "No, please trust me. Come with me." And he insisted on going his own way. And unfortunately, he ran right back into the shooter and was killed.
Oh my God.
Unfortunate.
Oh my God.
So that's really my presentation for tonight. I didn't want to go too long, and I didn't want to overwhelm you. Unfortunately, I talk about doom and gloom. I don't have anything.
yeah.
uplifting.
Stephanie, what I wanted to, I had mentioned it to you also in the emails when we were communicating. Now that we're going to start more going out, and we have quite a few people in our congregation, that are elderly, and they haven't been much out, and everybody walking with masks. And we go into the stores, and we go into we park cars in parking lots or parking garages, and it's a little bit more difficult. You don't really see faces. Everybody looks the same behind the mask.
That's right.
What tips do you have for us to try to see through everything?
It's still common sense, right? Someone, just because you can't see their nose and their mouth doesn't mean that you can't see their body language and you can't see other things. It still comes down to knowing your surroundings. It's probably easier now because no one should be within 6 feet of you, right?
Exactly.
So it might be even a little easier, but I'm telling you, it all comes down to your own instincts, being aware of your surroundings. Most people, I got to tell you, I went to a synagogue in Coral Gables. I was doing a on visit and helping them identify, some security gaps. And I said, I'm going to go outside and take some pictures of the temple. Okay. I go out there, and all these women, and it just happened to be women, all these moms were picking up their kids. It happened to be the same time of school being let out. Every single parent had their head in their phone. I'm taking pictures of their temple. I'm unassuming. I get it. I don't look like a villain. What does a villain look like, though? Right? There's no profile. And one woman looked up, and I could see the wheels in her head turning, like, why is that woman taking pictures of the temple? But then she put her head back in her phone, and she kept walking. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to people paying him more
Questioning.
and paying attention, right? Paying attention.
Sometimes, you see something, but then you think, okay, well, they're going to think I'm crazy if I say something, And
That's when you ask yourself, what makes this suspicious? Walk yourself through what makes it suspicious. And it may be compelling enough to report it, or that you talk yourself out of it and say, okay, it's not really suspicious. Right?
yeah.
You have to be aware of your surroundings. My office is downtown, and you can see people walking towards you. There's a lot of homeless people there, and you're almost forced to really pay attention to see who's coming or going, because I don't know who's going to whack me on the head and try to take my watch. So.
No, absolutely. I lived in New York for a little while, and I was walking down the street, and 3 men approached me, and I knew exactly what they were doing before they did it. One walked behind me, and the other 2 started walking alongside of me. And I just stepped up my step as fast as I could, and they ducked into the first store I came across. Clearly, they were trying to mug me.
Claro, sure.
And it was the one time I wasn't carrying my gun, right?
Oh my goodness.
And I knew I couldn't take on 3 of them, right? I'm tough, but I'm not that tough.
Wow.
So my concern is you all stay safe, right? And any little tidbit that you can take home, whether it's relaxing and breathing, lowering your heart rate's the biggest thing. Think about it. Your child fell, cut his head or her head open, and you freak out. What is that? Oh, you freak out first, right?
Right.
A lot of people do. You've got it. You have to get out of that mindset and kind of start to sit back and take it in a little bit better and react better and learn to react faster but correctly. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
You know, the video, Stephanie, with the school board, it brought something to my mind immediately. When the people didn't get up, every time you're on I-95 and there's an accident to the side, the traffic just goes dead because people just have to look.
Rubberneckers.
It seemed to me like those people that stayed in the auditorium just had to see what the guy was going to do. They just.
Well, I think it's denial. So studies have shown that their brain is actually processing it, saying this can't be true. I can't really, am I really seeing this? And they stay in that questioning period way too long. So they got to get out of that questioning period. Yeah, I'm really seeing it. And okay, I got to take an action now. Move. Look at the people in the airport. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Go, because you'll find your stuff later if you're alive. And if you're not, you don't need it anymore anyway. Especially in the airport, I'm saying, forget about rolling the cart with your luggage.
Exactly.
Your stuff is going to be there if you're going to need it later. And if you're not going to be dead, you're not going to need it anyway.
And that scene was really chaotic because even while I was on scene, somebody was yelling shots fired and everybody would start screaming and running or some people would just drop to the floor. That was a really chaotic scene, to say the least. And it went on and on and on for like 9 hours. It was a long scene. You're talking, but she's talking. But, okay.
They should have run. Is that what you're saying, with the luggage, run to the back?
Yeah, I would have dropped my luggage. I would have dropped my luggage and ran.
Sure, you drop your luggage. Leave your luggage.
The guy was going the other way, right? They were behind him. He was shooting the opposite direction. Turn around and run. There's so many exits at that airport. My goodness, especially down in the luggage.
Right.
So just run. That's it.
You don't always have that luxury of running. Sometimes you're trapped like the kids in the classroom.
Right.
So, and we'll get to that. Jay, do you want to talk a little bit about the security group at the temple and everything?
I just wanted to make one comment. You were talking about the tourniquets. I don't know whether any of you have noticed, but in the main sanctuary, there are some first aid boxes on the side, and in each one of them is several tourniquets, and everybody on the security committee has had Stop the Bleed training. And before the corona.
Can you get closer to the microphone so we can
hear you, Jay.
Jay, can you get closer to the computer?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, horrible.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was saying that in the main sanctuary, we have some first aid boxes up, and in the boxes are tourniquets. And everybody on the security committee has had Stop the Bleed training. And we were planning on having it available to anybody that wanted it, but then the social distancing
Coronavirus.
Sort of stopped that. But when the social distancing is over, we're planning on having it for anybody that wants.
Right, so he's got tourniquets at your temple, and your entire security team has taken Stop the Bleed training, so they know how to apply a tourniquet. Once COVID's over, he's going to open that up to the whole congregation so you can learn it. I would learn it and carry one on you all the time. I mean,
yes,
getting shot, you could be in a car accident and need it.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Stephanie, in a pinch, is your belt that you're wearing a good tourniquet? If you
It's hard. It's really hard to stop the bleeding with a belt. It's really hard. I mean, you can, and it depends on the width of the belt, but you can. Biggest things you're going to learn in Stop the Bleed is that person you're putting it on is going to scream and tell you to stop, and you just got to keep going and going and going until you don't see red anymore, until you see no more blood.
If you have a jacket, can you use it as a tourniquet? A jacket?
No, I don't think you won't get it tight enough.
Around your leg.
A belt might work in some cases, but people really struggle with the belt.
So it's a piece of cloth. Is that what it is? The tourniquet it is like a piece of
It is.
white cloth?
Not white, it comes in all different colors, but yeah. It's a piece of cloth and then it locks into place and you turn what's called a winslet. And you turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. But it literally takes seconds to put on.
I'd like to buy one for me and my husband.
Wait
Yeah.
till you get the training and you know how to use it, and then they'll be available.
Right.
Yes, I like to have one with me. Yeah, my husband
So
too.
when Jay offers that class, I encourage you to take it just so you know how to use it. So right after Stoneman Douglas, my husband and I actually took our whole community and we had them over to the house outside and we put up a projector and we taught every child in our neighborhood how to apply a tourniquet.
That's a great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, and they were into it. They were much more into it than I ever thought they would be.
Kids are smart.
They're
Kids are-
resilient.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I like to learn.
Stephanie, Jane knows that about at the temple, I'm always concerned about the door that when you face the stage, when you face the on the right, the exit door to the right there. It's I know it's locked from the outside, but for years people have used it to go out after service.
Right.
And they still have the tendency to get out of there, and we have put signs on it
Wait, they use it to come in or to leave?
to leave, to go out. The problem is that
They're
it
hungry.
doesn't close behind them. And they,
Yeah, we talked about that, Jay, right? That was one of your assessment things.
yeah, I know, yeah, that was one of the things because I personally, a few times went out there to close the door behind them and ask people not to, because it's like very difficult. I know, Jay, we put a sign on it, but I don't know how helpful that is.
On the list of
Is
things-
What kind
that's
of a-
not an exit door, Ahuba?
It
That's
is an
not an
exit door, but it's not, it's an emergency exit door.
It's got panic hardware on it, but there's no alarm.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be an emergency exit door. It's not supposed to be as an exit door. I was standing there and I was telling people, if you leave out there and if somebody with a gun is right there in back, there's nobody there to protect you. There's nobody to know that they are there. Don't use that door, but it's like talking to, they look at
So which one is the proper door to use in the temple? For
the
exit?
one that we go into the offices,
The one
like,
by the office.
I got it.
Where the guard is,
Right.
off to the side,
Yeah.
where the
You
guard.
you
Across
walk
from the
toward
hall.
the guard.
by the hall.
Right. You walk toward the guard.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know, I mean, we cannot, because it still is an emergency in case something happens.
Yeah, the fire department.
Fire
will let you
department
close it.
is, we still have to have that door.
Yes.
But somehow, how do we deter people from using it regularly?
You hit them.
Or, one simple thing is.
That once it opens up, it sets off an alarm, and maybe they will learn that this is wrong, something is wrong with this
No.
picture, I don't know.
On Shabbat, you're gonna be setting off alarms.
Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter,
Yeah. If you're going out that door,
yeah.
that should set an alarm off.
Where
Not only
that
that,
says
that
that it
door
is an
needs-
emergency exit only, and if you're gonna use it, you're gonna
That
set.
door needs to be accessible.
I would rather put the sign and warn it and
We
not have
did, we did, didn't help.
So, yeah, you can't lock it, right? Because it has to be accessible. God forbid something
Right.
happens.
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
But let me ask
For
you something.
emergency only. Because
let
we
me
don't have enough staff or anybody to protect us when we come out there on regular basis.
Okay, stop 1 second. Let me just offer maybe a suggestion.
Okay.
Just it's only a suggestion. So
Okay.
it comes in that long hallway door, right, by the office. And what if you then move the guard to that side exit and everyone exited that side door when it's over?
They're not going to,
No,
people are going that way.
No,
Because there's something going on
Okay.
in those rooms.
No,
Because
not
of parking.
Some people are
only
gonna
that,
go that.
people who have difficulty coming in and coming out can't use that exit.
Okay,
That
so
exit
Jay
should be there.
has a security team. Why can't we post one person there at the end of service? You can't use this door, sorry.
The
Right now,
problem is
they're
it's not only
using it.
certain service. There are people, the people that sit there, Jay knows, the people that sit there, it's just easier for them to just, if they have to leave, just get out of there. It's just that it's been like this for so many years, Stephanie, that there are.
No, it goes back to my point that you can't have it both ways. It's got to be one way or the other.
Right, I agree with Stephanie.
Miriam, were you going to say something?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's true that, you know, we need to keep that door accessible. But, you know, my thought is like sometimes people just don't see it, don't care. Maybe we can use like some kind of paper, red paper, like in like 3-4 lines across the door, like to say this is only for emergency, do not open, which at the time of an emergency, if we need to go out that door, you just push that door and we are going to be able to get out. So, you know, people will see really that, you know, that's an exit.
There is a sign
only
there,
for
Miriam. We put a
emergency.
sign there. There is a sign.
Yeah,
there.
I know. It's a sign like maybe, you know, I'm talking about using like long bands, like
a tape or something.
or
a banner.
across the door, like blocking the fact that the center, you know, that when people can see it's an emergency exit, do not use it. If people can see it in red, 3, 4, 5 lines that this is an emergency door, maybe people will not use that door. You know,
Okay,
For some people,
Jay
it's
is a very
easier.
bright guy.
For some people, it's easier to use the door because they're right there.
Jay is a very bright guy. I love
okay,
dearly.
so
We'll figure out
maybe
that.
maybe
Hardware will-
we need to, okay. Maybe we need to say something in Temple very clear to people so people can understand. Listen, this is the new rule. No, it's
Doesn't
true.
help.
Like, okay, find the people, have a camera and find the people who will access that door out.
Roz did that. Roz did that. Roz did that.
And what happened?
And what happened?
Who were the
This is what
people?
happened.
I sit in
So
that
somebody
section.
wasn't there, they came in
I sit in that
later,
section.
so you
And I
know,
don't
it's
see
like,
anybody going out that door.
Because you go to the drinking room after.
That's right.
You mean to do a l'chaim?
Yeah.
Well, but we don't do a l'chaim till
the
way
rules-
after everybody's out of the
okay,
main
Stephanie,
section.
something for you
See,
to
so
think
it's your-
about.
so it's
I
your
still
fault,
think
George.
that we need to have it just buzz.
Oh.
I don't
Isaac,
understand why
I
people
already
think
know
that
that
they're
it's always
entitled.
my fault. Don't
Of
worry.
course.
No, I don't see any reason.
You're a man, of course.
Okay.
It's
So
you,
that's
George.
something for that security team to come up with. And, you know, if it needs to be messaged out, it needs to be messaged out. If it, for 2 weeks, you need to have somebody stand at the door and say, I'm sorry, you can't use this door. It's emergency exit. It'll alarm. That's,
Painted in red.
I don't understand that.
you know, some people feel like they're entitled and the rules don't apply to them.
Yes.
Exactly, thank you. I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to say it.
And everybody is Jewish.
It's everywhere. It's
And
not
they're
just
all
the Jewish community.
Okay.
Everywhere. Look at COVID. Look at what everybody's done.
I
So-
volunteer to sit in front of the door and make
There you
sure
go.
that nobody goes out there.
You go, George.
I will wait till everybody leaves and then go do my l'chaim.
There's not gonna
There you go.
be-
You're private l'chaim.
I think you should take him up on that offer.
George.
Okay.
I'm serious.
George is going to sit there with his arms spread.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I've known George since he was
Do
a
you
little
have-
kid.
Why not?
Do you have
There's
any
no
other
reason why.
questions before we conclude?
No, we like to have.
Thank you
I
very
like to
much.
have like.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was wonderful.
Yeah,
You're
Stephanie, I'm interested in the temple to show us the members that want to go to a special thing that teaches us all this. What you said
We're gonna
about it,
set
like
that
a
up.
special.
Jay's trying to set
Please,
that
I
up in
appreciate
June for the second or
Beautiful.
third week in June.
And the tourniquet too. I'd like to buy that for me and my husband
Okay?
to keep it with. Thank you. I really
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
thank you,
Very-
Stephanie, very, very
Hey,
much.
you all stay
Very
safe,
much,
okay?
Very much appreciated.
Okay, thank
Thank
you very
you so much.
much. A lot.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you,
Thank
Stephanie.
you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Jay, every Talis bag needs to have a tourniquet in it from now on.